In today's video, I am investigating and exposing one of YouTube's biggest villains. An absolute menace to social media, hated by influencers everywhere, probably. We've had the Lucky Scoop situation, we've had the Nido situation, but this week's video is all about the Rachel situation. This week's video is all about me. Because back a couple of months ago, when I hit 100k subscribers, I promised that I would make a Q&A video, and then I never did. I just got a little distracted with making other videos, and then when I asked you guys to give me some questions to answer, I ended up getting over 1,000 questions. So the questions themselves took me a while to sort through, but I'm here now and I'm ready to tell you everything. Who am I? Where did I come from? How did I go from not even existing on YouTube 7 months ago to now this? Why do I trash talk influencers all the time, and how am I so confident doing so? How did I manage to get possibly one of the worst YouTuber nicknames ever? Some people had whole lists of questions they wanted me to answer, and some people got right down to business asking the real questions. Do I have a boyfriend? Do I have a girlfriend? Do the hate comments get to me? Most of the questions you guys asked were either about myself or about my opinions on overconsumption and other similar topics. So today's video will be answering questions about myself, my life, my interests, and my channel, and then I will make a separate part 2 video to answer all of your more specific overconsumption themed questions. And hopefully by the end of today's video, you will feel like you know me a lot better. So let's start with the basics. Hi, I'm Rachel, but I actually prefer being called Rach. Nobody asked about that, but I thought I'd tell you anyway. How old am I? I am 26 years old. I think a lot of people presume that I'm a bit younger than that, but I'm 26 and my birthday is on the 24th of August, which makes me a Virgo. And I feel like I'm a very typical Virgo. I'm not really interested in like astrology or anything, but I do know from what I've read, the Virgo traits suit me very well. I am also an INTP personality type if you're into that sort of thing. Where am I from? This is always the first thing that people ask me when they meet me every single time. Where are you from? I think it's because I have a strange accent. So I'm from England. I am British. My grandma was Austrian, so I'm technically a quarter Austrian if we're getting really specific about it. However, I've spent a lot of time in California over the past few years for reasons we'll discuss later on. But long story short, over the past couple of years, I feel like I've subconsciously soaked in the American accent, and now my accent is kind of like a weird mix of things. I honestly never even notice it. Like, I just feel like I sound like the rest of my family or my friends from England. But everybody says to me, like, oh my gosh, you sound so American. I've actually had multiple people say to me, so what part of America are you from? And then it's really awkward when I have to be like, oh, I'm actually from England. How tall am I? I am 5'5", which I feel like is a very average height. My favorite color is pink, although I do like red and black as well. My favorite foods, very specifically, deep dish pepperoni pizza and also pancakes, but not like the thick American pancakes, the really thin like crepe style pancakes with lemon and sugar. How do I like my coffee or tea? And do I have any beverage preferences? I actually don't drink tea or coffee. I don't like hot drinks at all. They're honestly kind of gross to me. I like my liquids ice cold. I mainly just drink water, honestly. I know that's kind of boring, but yeah. Do I have any siblings? Yes, I have a younger sister called Jess, although everyone says that she looks like the older sibling. You've probably spotted her in my vlog content if you watch my Rach vlogs. My sister is the complete opposite of me in pretty much every single way. In our interests, personality. We didn't get on very well when we were younger because I am a very like calm, quiet, introverted person, and my sister has always been very loud, like super energetic. So when we were younger, I would basically just get overstimulated by being in her presence, and then when I would tell her to like chill out, she would think I was being a boring, mean older sister for not reciprocating her energy. But as we've both gotten older, I feel like we've both become a lot more understanding of each other's personalities, I guess. So we get along really well now, which is nice, and we do a lot of stuff together, so yeah. Do I have any pets? This is possibly the most common question that I got asked. I have a pet bird. This is Mabel. She's a cockatiel and I've had her for, I think, 6 years. She is very loud. She's very spoiled. She spends most of her time either screaming, sleeping, or like rearranging her feathers. I think sometime in the future I would love to adopt a dog, but only when I've settled down somewhere and I'm financially prepared for that. I feel like having a little dog is like my dream pet. I had a bunch of questions about my hair, so let's go through those. I dye my hair myself, and I've been doing so for about 6 years. I started doing my hair myself during COVID. I had like a really bad experience at a salon in mid-2020, I think. They basically just did a really bad job of what I asked them to do. So yeah, I've been doing my hair myself ever since. I've had a bunch of different hair colors. I've done like red, pink and purple. This specific blonde underdye hairstyle I first did in 2020. And I actually went TikTok viral back in 2020 for this hairstyle, but we'll talk more about that later. I stopped dyeing my hair about 6 months ago. All of this is my natural color. Obviously this here is my natural color. We've got some pretty hefty roots going on under here. I actually plan on going to a salon soon and getting everything just touched up properly because I want this line to go away. You can't see the line very well where my hair's growing out, so let me put a picture here of like how bad it actually looks in real life. I need to get that fixed immediately. I'm gonna see if they can get the blonde to go a more ashy blonde instead of this like very yellowy blonde we got going on. So yeah, we'll see in a couple weeks time how that turns out. I had a bunch of questions asking, am I dating anyone? I am in a long distance relationship. Here's my boyfriend and I. Oh my gosh, boyfriend reveal. I obviously live in England and my boyfriend lives in California. They have featured in a couple of my videos, usually just as like a mysterious voice coming from the phone. Baby.
Hello?
Am I a Birkenstock girl or an UGG girl?
A what? What is that? A burger stock?
You know what? Let me just get him to introduce himself to you guys.
Okay, I got this. Ready?
Make yourself sound cool, though.
What? Am I not cool? My name is Alejandro Pedroza, and I'm Rachel's boyfriend. Sounds so wrong. Can I say husband? You guys might have heard me in a couple of videos, famously known for burger stocks. I'm a voice actor. I've voiced in animations, video games, probably most notably Reverse 1999. Some of you may have also realized that my name is very Mexican, which also leads to my next point. Soy mexicano. También hablo español. That's all for me. Thanks for listening.
The story of how my boyfriend and I met is kind of strange. Back in like 2021, we were both Genshin Impact gaming streamers on Twitch. So we got to know each other through mutual streamer friends and just like watching each other's Twitch streams. So we were friends for about a year, just like talking online and stuff. And somehow his diabolical Genshin Impact Riz ended up working on me. This was his first ever message to me, like ever. We started dating on Halloween in 2022, so we've been together for almost 3.5 years. Somebody asked, is it hard being in a long distance relationship? And honestly, the answer is yes and no. It's hard for the obvious reasons, spending months without seeing each other. As of right now, it's the 3rd of March 2026. The last time I saw him was the 3rd of December 2025. Yeah, that's a long time. Normally we go maybe like 2.5 months without seeing each other, but sometimes things just happen and we have to schedule our trips around our lives. Also, obviously, with me being on one side of the planet and him being on the other, it takes about 25 hours of traveling and hundreds of dollars to simply get to each other's house. So yeah, those bits suck, for sure. But I feel like the thing is, when you love somebody, it's easy to enjoy being in a relationship with them despite the hard stuff. Having a regular distance, like normal relationship would be nice, obviously, but I don't wake up every day and think like, ugh, oh my gosh, this relationship is so hard. We are currently not in a position to close that distance, which we are both fine with. A lot of people say to me like, oh my gosh, why don't you just move over there and live with him? It's really not that easy. With a travel visa, I can only stay in the US for 3 months maximum. That is my limit with a simple travel visa. I don't want to move over there on a work visa for various reasons, and as far as I know, the only other way I can move over there is with a fiancé visa or a spouse visa, aka we have to get married. And forgive me for not wanting to rush into that. So yeah, we're taking things as they come. We visit each other a few times a year for a few weeks at a time. I do visit him more than he visits me, and whenever I talk about like how much I visit my partner, I always get comments like, well, why doesn't he visit you? That doesn't seem fair. He clearly doesn't care about your relationship. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can we like chill out for a second, please? He does visit me, just not as often as I visit him. There aren't any rules with a long distance relationship to say that you have to like visit each other an equal amount of times. You just do what works. My partner has a full-time job. He's got a 9 to 5. He's in the wage cage, okay? He can't just ditch his job every other month to come and spend like a few weeks in England. I, however, work pretty much completely freelance. For the majority of the year, I can be anywhere, anytime, which means that I can travel to see him far more than he can travel to see me. I can fly over there, I can stay with him, he can carry on working while I'm over there, and that's fine by me. I basically get a free vacation in California every few months. So yeah, that's what works for us. It suits our individual like needs and lifestyles. We're happy. Are you happy?
You know, I'm glad you asked that because I've been really wanting to talk about.
Anyway, enough about him. I got a bunch of questions about my life outside of YouTube, my life before YouTube, my job, all that kind of stuff. So I think the easiest way to answer all of those questions at once is to tell you my origin story. I never knew what I wanted to be when I was younger. You know how some people just like know? They know that they want to be like a doctor or an actor, or they want to like, I don't know, work with animals. Not me. I've never had a dream job. I've never had a dream. I've honestly just like never known what I've wanted. Anyway, fast forward to college. I was 18 and I knew that I liked anything to do with media, video editing. I was really good at English language and literature. So I went to university to study broadcast journalism. I decided that I wanted to be either a TV or radio presenter because I like presenting things and being on camera is kind of fun. So that was kind of what I was aiming for. But then COVID happened right as I was in my final year of my journalism degree. The university shut down. I ended up finishing my degree from home, and I actually ended up really hating journalism because I kind of realized how depressing the world is and how evil and corrupt people are. And to be a journalist, you have to immerse yourself in that constantly. We were taught that bad news sells, so as a journalist, you're constantly surrounded by bad news. And after 3 years of that, from the ages of like 18 to 21, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I do not want to dedicate my life to this as a career. So I graduated from my degree with first class honors and a newfound hatred for journalism, still no closer to knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And of course, because of the COVID lockdowns, nobody was hiring fresh graduates. I mean, nobody was hiring full stop. So I did the most sensible thing that I could think of and signed up for a master's degree. One of my only other passions was fictional films and TV. I was obsessed with like Marvel, Star Wars, anything like that. And I also discovered throughout my degree that I was really good at organizing things. So I was like, maybe I could work on film and TV productions. So I signed up for a master's degree in production management for film, TV, and digital video, which was really interesting to study. It was all about the planning that goes into film and TV shows, things like the budgeting, the production schedules, location scouting, hiring and transporting equipment, like the cameras and stuff. Basically all the behind the scenes stuff that nobody ever really thinks about or really cares about. So I did my master's degree for a year, but again, it was still COVID. I graduated with first class honors, but still nobody was hiring. All of the film and TV productions had been shut down anyway because of COVID. So yeah, I was kind of screwed. So on the day of my 22nd birthday, which was the day that I finished my master's degree, I was offered a job doing some media archive and like social media work that I was recommended for by someone that I knew. So I just accepted it without any hesitation. But I've actually skipped out on a crucial part of my lore here. Something important that I had going on the side. In 2019, just as COVID was starting in my final year of my journalism degree, I made a TikTok account. And I immediately fell in love with making TikToks. I posted every single day, sometimes even up to 3 times a day. I was posting literally just random stuff, funny videos, anything that I could think of. So by the end of my master's degree, about a year and a half later, I had somehow grown to 100,000 TikTok followers, just from posting a bunch of silly little videos about anything. Incredibly long story short, one day in autumn 2020, I ended up posting a video of me dyeing my hair. And from then on, things got kind of crazy. That video that I posted got 10 million views, and I climbed to almost 500,000 TikTok followers over the next couple of months. It was insane. I had people making like fan accounts of me, edits, fan art. I was getting recognized out in public. It was actually wild. Funnily enough, I still get the odd comment from people saying like, oh my gosh, I knew I recognized you from TikTok. I'm not gonna go too into detail about the whole thing because I want to make a separate video in the future all about my time as a semi-famous TikToker and all of the things that I learned and experienced because of that. But to summarize, for multiple reasons, I ended up falling out of love with TikTok. My previous account that I had is no longer public. I ended up finding a new interest in gaming during COVID, and I eventually switched to Twitch streaming instead. So from 2022 to 2025, I was a streamer. Alongside all of this stuff, I kept working. I eventually moved into the esports industry, which is competitive, like professional gaming. And I don't mean that like I was a professional gamer, I was like working with professional gamers. I did move into another job soon after I graduated, which was like my first classic office job. 9 to 5. The work itself was really cool, but I just had an all-round kind of bad experience with the whole being employed thing. In that job, there were some real issues with management. They kept changing my actual like job role and moving me onto different projects all the time, so I was never really sure what my actual role within the company was. And these issues weren't just specific to me, these were like company-wide issues. So everyone was always like unhappy, stressed, nobody knew what they were doing. Nobody knew how to keep the management happy. Yeah, it was just like, it was a really terrible first employment. And it ended up getting so bad that I quit that job after 10 months and I decided that I just wasn't built for the whole being employed thing. So I decided to go freelance instead. I worked various freelance jobs from 2022 onwards. And for anybody who is unfamiliar with what freelancing means, it's basically where you're self-employed and you get hired to work for different companies. Usually for like a short contract or a set amount of time or to complete specific projects, rather than just having like a regular job where you're employed by a company and you work for them permanently. It's basically being self-employed versus being employed by an employer. So I did a bunch of freelance work, including doing social media for brands, marketing for events. I was also signed with an esports organization for a couple of years as a streamer, and that is how I did stuff like working with Logitech on some of their product releases. I eventually became the head of media for that organization. So yeah, that whole thing was really fun. I was also a university lecturer for a while where I gave lectures on esports and events marketing. I guess I've done a bunch of stuff, to be fair. Working freelance can sort of feel like doing a load of different side quests. It is definitely not as reliable as having a permanent job or employment, but between freelance work and earning money from content creation and streaming, I have managed to keep things going. That being said, I feel like I have been messed around and perhaps taken advantage of a little bit at certain points in my career. Especially when you do freelance work as a younger person, you can end up doing quite a bit of work for free. Or things like favors for companies with the promise of it turning into paid work down the line. And often that paid work never actually comes. And in the past, I would just kind of like say yes to everything. Yeah, I'll come teach this class for you for free. Yeah, I'll help you out with this project. Yeah, sure, I'll jump on this Teams call and give you advice on this. And doing favors like that is fine, but when you're a freelancer, every single free job or favor that you do takes up valuable time that you could be spending doing paid work instead. So now, after a few years of doing freelance work, I have learned to say no to anything that's like people asking me to just work for free. Otherwise, you end up just kind of getting a little bit used. That's something that I've definitely had to work on for myself. Knowing when to say no, knowing when to say, look, if you want me to do freelance work, you're gonna have to pay me. I've also had multiple instances in the past where somebody that I'm working for has found out about my large following on TikTok and has tried to get me to promote their company or their brand on my personal TikTok account for free. I feel like I've always had this kind of strange crossover between my career in social media and then like my personal social media stuff. So that's always been a little bit difficult to set boundaries for as well. But to answer your questions about what I do for work and a little bit about what I did before YouTube, I am 100% freelance right now, which I also need to have the flexibility to travel to see my partner. As I said, before doing YouTube, I was a Twitch streamer, but I actually kind of quit Twitch streaming streaming at the end of last year to focus on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is monetized, so I do earn a bit of money from posting videos on here. Thank you, YouTube. I've also got another job that I do occasionally as well that has nothing to do with social media or anything like that, but it is a teaching role, so yeah. Between all of that and posting on YouTube 8 times a week, I'm pretty busy. I've only been doing this whole YouTube thing for like 7 months. Or have I? What if I told you that this isn't actually my first YouTube channel? Scandalous, I know. But we'll come back to that a little bit later. Do you have any famous friends? That's a good question. It feels kind of weird just like name dropping people, so I'm not gonna do that. But I will say that through being a streamer and through my partner being a voice actor living in LA, I've made a few pretty cool friends along the way. Some of whom are English voice actors in certain games like Genshin Impact and also in animes. Hopefully one day when my boyfriend is a big and famous voice actor, they'll be the most famous person that I know and I'll be able to clout farm off of them. But anyway, if you want to see me do cool stuff and hang out with cool people, I often post things like that on my Instagram story, so you can follow me over there if you want to see that. Instagram is the only other social media platform that I am currently really active on. I don't use Twitter, I don't use TikTok anymore, I don't use anything else. So yeah, if you want to follow me anywhere outside of YouTube, definitely go for my Instagram. But speaking of anime and Genshin, let's answer some questions about my interests and my hobbies. A bunch of you wanted to know all about my favorite TV shows, films, music artists, that kind of stuff. So let's go through everything because I feel like I have some pretty mixed choices. Favorite artists, probably ABBA and Kylie Minogue. Although I do listen to a bunch of different random music that changes literally every week. I love 80s music. I had an absolutely huge Panic at the Disco phase, so I still listen to a lot of that kind of stuff. In fact, my first 3 concerts ever were Panic at the Disco, 21 Pilots, and Fall Out Boy. This was back in like 2015. Then a couple of years ago, I got super into K-pop. So my favorite groups are probably Stray Kids and IVE. I'm not really a hardcore fan of anyone currently, so yeah. As for my favorite movies, I am a big Marvel fan. My favorite Marvel movie is definitely Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I am a huge Bucky Barnes fangirl. I have been since I was like 16 years old. I'm very like not normal about him. I love Star Wars too. I love anything to do with Star Wars. Aside from that, my other favorite movies are probably Clueless, Venom, and Barbie, Princess and the Pauper. So I don't currently watch anything on TV, but in the past I've loved things like The Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, Supernatural, Sherlock, Doctor Who. Yes, I was on Super Wholock Tumblr. Then in 2021, I discovered anime. Death Note was the first anime that I ever watched, but some of my favorite animes are Hunter x Hunter, Bungo Stray Dogs, Attack on Titan was amazing. I love My Hero Academia, Case Study of Vanitas, Noragami, Yuri on Ice. I recently got really into Gachiakura. So I guess those would be like my top animes and my top recommendations, along with Full Metal Alchemist, Jujutsu Kaisen as well. And as for video games, I'm honestly not really into gaming at all anymore, but the game that I've definitely played the most in my life is Genshin Impact. Okay, next up, a bunch of you asked to see my collections. In the past, I collected a bunch of stuff, but it ended up as just me buying stuff for the sake of it, and because I felt like I needed to be constantly spending money and acquiring possessions in order to stay happy. Thankfully, I eventually kicked that habit, and I'm now far more picky with the things that I collect. I have a large collection of Funko Pops behind me that I do not plan to grow any further. I will show you the Funkos that I have here. I talked a little bit about the Funkos in last week's video, but yeah, most of these were gifts, no more Funkos for me. I also have a nice little collection of 3 Miffy plushies right here. I've actually had a few comments on my videos basically saying, not you criticizing overconsumption when you have 3 of the same plushies in the background. A typical example of people not understanding the difference between regular consumption and overconsumption, and then also the difference between collecting things purposefully and overconsuming. These 3 plushies I have collected over the span of 3 years. Each one of them I bought when I was in the US with my partner, and then I brought them all the way back home with me to England. So yeah, each one of these is special to me, and again, there's literally 3 of them. I would say the only other thing that I do currently collect is anime figures. But not just any anime figures, very specifically, figures of the character Hawks from My Hero Academia. So I have 3 3 Hawks figures, one of which is probably my most prized possession. Here it is. This was a birthday gift from my boyfriend. It's absolutely huge. Like, it's the same size as my head and shoulders. So yeah, this is probably my most prized possession. It was pretty expensive, and obviously it was a gift, so I will be treasuring this for the rest of my life. I have 2 other ones as well. These ones are a lot smaller, but they're just so freaking cool. I love him so much. It's a small collection, as I said, but as I got older, I think I realized that collecting things is very expensive and it takes up a lot of space, so I'm very picky with the things that I buy and collect now. Some people were asking to see my manga collection. I don't own any manga. I can't lie, I'm kind of an anime only. As for reading, I'm not super into reading, so I don't really own many books. Most of the reading that I do is fanfic on AO3. And finally, let's move on to some YouTube related questions. Questions about my channel and how this whole thing started. I had a bunch of you ask why I started making de-influencer style content, anti-consumerism content, so let me tell you the full story. So as I mentioned before, I've been a content creator since 2019, and after my TikTok viral era ended, my TikTok account kind of flopped. My views dropped, I was constantly losing followers, I didn't know what I wanted to post anymore, I didn't know what my followers wanted to see from me anymore. So yeah, the whole account just kind of like flopped. But honestly, I just slowly began to realize that TikTok as a platform just wasn't the same anymore. Nobody was watching funny videos anymore, and the kind of like fun fandom part of TikTok that I had been a part of got kind of toxic. And the thing was that after COVID, everybody had joined TikTok. Even the people who said that TikTok was cringe back in 2019 and refused to download it, and so many people were now trying to be influencers. And in my opinion, that really changed TikTok as a platform. There was a real shift from TikTok being this like funny Vine style platform to like influencer consumer central. Then at some point, I don't remember exactly when, but TikTok then introduced TikTok Shop, which started off the whole thing of people making videos just to earn commission on selling rubbish products. Everybody started filming come shopping with me videos, doing shopping hauls, unboxing videos, all that kind of stuff. Come to Primark with me, unbox this PR package with me, come with me to Target, let's go to Sephora. So I was like, okay, if I want to keep up with all these other influencers and the TikTok platform as a whole, I need to start making this kind of content too. So that's what I started doing. Starting in like 2023 onwards, I was making like unboxing videos, come with me to Primark to see the new Sanrio stuff videos. I made a video like showing off my new Lululemon jacket that I bought because TikTok made me buy it. And I can't lie, these videos would get really, really good views. People love consumerism content. And that's why influencers love making it, because it does so well. So that's why I've said to you guys in the past that like I used to make overconsumption style content. I have never really been like a crazy overconsumer, at least not to the point that we see other creators over-consuming. I've definitely bought too many things of like Funko Pops, plushies, that kind of stuff, but I've never been like an overconsumption influencer where I was trying to influence people to overconsume. I've never done that. What I did find myself doing though was making consumerism content. Making content where I was just showing off things to buy, making the kind of like run don't walk to this shop to get this thing kind of content. And I've always been very open about that. Like even when I first started my YouTube channel, I was like, okay, I need to make sure that like I'm not pretending that I've always been the perfect content creator, because I haven't. The reason why I am now so kind of like anti-overconsumption and anti-consumerism content is because I used to be like that. I know how easy it is as an influencer to kind of like fall into the trap of making that content. I know why they do it, because the views are good, it's easy content to make, but I try to use that experience to inform the things that I do now and the videos that I make and the things that I say. And having that experience with content creation has led me to do what I do today. I will say though, like thinking back, I feel like I always did make kind of like anti-consumerism style videos somewhere in there. I remember like mid 2023, I think I started making this little TikTok series that was called here's everything I didn't buy today. I would go shopping, but I would make these videos where I would show all of the things that I didn't buy, and I would explain the reasons why I didn't buy those things. So yeah, I was sort of like making de-influencing content back then, and I didn't even realize it. Aside from that, making overconsumption, consumerism style content felt really rubbish. I realized that I was making videos basically advertising stuff for free. Things like, come see what's new in at Primark videos. So what, I'm just using my platform to make free Primark adverts now? Just because the views are good? That realization was like a really horrible feeling. I felt like a sellout because I was a sellout. I was like, I used to make really fun, like funny, creative TikTok videos, and now what? Like, I make adverts for Primark. Like, what am I doing? And that is what kind of led me to this realization that most influencers are just advertisers now. Everything is consumerism content. So I was like, okay, first of all, I need to stop making this kind of content. It's not what I want to do, it's not what I believe in, it's not why I became a content creator. So instead, I want to start making content that tries to give out the opposite message. I decided to completely ditch my TikTok account because it was just completely dead. It was done, it was over. So I guess that's kind of like the story of how I used to be a TikToker, but now I'm not. I did also have a YouTube channel that I had for like 4 years, where I would repost some of my TikToks, I would post random streaming clips, gaming content. I did like K-pop music reactions, movie watch throughs. I posted a bunch of stuff on there, and the channel reached, I think, like 10k subscribers. But I posted such a wide variation of content, and I posted so inconsistently that the channel never really took off. So halfway through 2025, I was like, okay, we're gonna ditch the TikTok, we're gonna ditch the YouTube channel, I'm gonna start completely from scratch, and I'm gonna post lifestyle content that is true to myself and what I believe in. So I started a new TikTok and a new YouTube channel, and I started posting the kind of stuff that you see here on my channel now. I had seen so much overconsumption style content on social media previously that I wanted to make videos basically showing people that having a normal amount of stuff is normal. And then it was getting more towards like Halloween and autumn, and people started making boo baskets, which are basically autumn themed gift baskets. It was just another example of peak consumerism content, influencers spending money, showing off stuff that they buy, convincing their viewers to also spend money on random gifts for people in the name of the autumn aesthetic. And to be completely honest, this kind of content just really annoyed me. Something that was also a big factor for me starting to make this kind of content was spending a lot more time in the US and realizing just how expensive things are over there. These creators doing these big like Target shopping hauls, acting like it's normal. Come to Target with me to make a cute little boo basket. I feel like most of these like consumerism, overconsumption influencers are based in the US. And after going to the US myself, going to a Target myself, and realizing how expensive things are there, I realized that these like cute little boo baskets that people were making actually cost like hundreds of dollars. But influencers never tell you how much they cost to make, because that just ruins the vibes. It ruins the aesthetic. So that's why I started making the boo basket review videos, where I would go through every single item in the basket and add up the real life cost of these things. And out of nowhere, these videos started doing really well. So I carried on making them and making other like anti-overconsumption style content, and that's pretty much how I ended up with over 200,000 YouTube subscribers. Making all of this like anti-overconsumption content is also how I ended up with the nickname the Overconsumption Girl. I was starting to see people like tagging me in videos of influencers making gift baskets and being like, where's the Overconsumption Girl? The Overconsumption Girl needs to see this. Oh my god, somebody tag the Overconsumption Girl. And I was like, wait, is that me? Like, am I the overconsumption girl? And it was genuinely really strange because I would just be like scrolling through YouTube, I would see a random gift basket video, I would open the comments, and I would just see people being like, where's the overconsumption girl? And I'd be like, right, they're talking about me. That's actually crazy. But I can't lie to you guys, I really don't like the nickname the Overconsumption Girl. I feel like being called the Overconsumption Girl makes it sound like I am an overconsumer, which is like, it's actually the opposite. I actually criticize overconsumption overconsumption. And then also the other thing is that people will sometimes make videos where they are not overconsuming. And then people will say, oh, where's the overconsumption girl? She would like this video because the creator is not overconsuming. And then you get people replying like, but this isn't even overconsumption, so why are you tagging the overconsumption girl? I don't know, I just feel like it gives off the wrong impression. I feel like it makes it sound like that my content is just me saying, this is overconsumption, this is overconsumption, this is overconsumption, when my content is not really like that. Maybe towards the start of posting on YouTube, I was doing a lot of like calling out overconsumption, but I feel like I put a lot of effort into kind of like discussing the nuance behind overconsumption and discussing whether things are or aren't overconsumption. So yes, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I don't like the nickname the Overconsumption Girl, but I mean, there are worse things to be called. That's for sure. As I mentioned, I am very critical of overconsumption influencers. Probably less so now, as I don't really want to get into the whole like drama YouTube territory. That's never what I wanted to be, and I feel like after a few videos where I criticized overconsumption influencers, I started to get a lot of comments being like, you need to make a video talking about this creator, you need to make a video talking about this TikToker. This TikToker is the overconsumption final boss. You should make a video about her. And I'm just like, guys, I am not like a drama YouTuber. I am not here to like make call out videos about specific creators. That's just not what I want to do. I will always happily criticize influencers in general because I feel like nobody really does. Influencers are some of the most unchecked people out there. They'll do things like make videos saying, go and buy your friends this huge gift basket of stuff they don't need just because I told you to. Okay, well, in my opinion, that's really dumb. I say that's a stupid thing to be telling people to do. That's my opinion. What is an influencer gonna do if I disagree with them? What's an influencer gonna do if I expose the price of their little boo basket? I think a lot of people think that influencers are like celebrities. They're not. The actions and opinions of influencers are no more important and valuable than anyone else's. And I feel like a lot of influencers think that they're immune to criticism because they have these fans and followers that are very active in defending them. Yeah. No, I've been an influencer, okay? I've had fans, I've had followers. It doesn't make you special. And I guess that's why I have the confidence to criticize influencers so openly. I am entitled to my opinion, just like they're entitled to theirs, and I am entitled to express that opinion online. I'm not bullying anyone, I'm not slandering anyone. At most, I just call things out for what they are. Influencers promoting overconsumption and consumerism, promoting excessive spending and purchasing. And I think the best part is that most of these influencers know that that's what they're doing. They know that they're guilty of that, so they have no excuse or defense, but they know that that's what they rely on for their content, so they'll keep going. But like I said, I'm not here to criticize anybody specifically. I will use specific influencers' content as case studies to show examples of the things that I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, the aim of my content is to try to show people that consumerism content shouldn't be as normalized as it is. That's not to say that I don't get a decent amount of hate on my videos, because I definitely do. There's a lot of people that disagree with me, a lot of people that think that I'm being rude or I'm being mean for calling out influencers. But I've been a creator for a long time now, so hate doesn't really bother me. Especially just like generic hate comments where it's just like kids telling me to shut up and stop being mean. Yeah, I don't care about that. What does sometimes get to me though is people misunderstanding the things that I'm trying to say, or perhaps like taking the things that I'm saying too literally, stuff like that. Okay, it's like the other day I posted a video where I said something like, the key to stopping bad habits is having self-discipline. You need to exercise self-control in order to do things like stop doom scrolling, stop buying things you don't need. And I said, I know it's hard, but having self-discipline is the key. And somebody commented something like, wow, that's like telling a depressed person to just stop being depressed. I usually love your content, but this was a bad take. I'm unfollowing. And that's the bit that like kind of gets to me, because I'm like, it's not hate. It's people just like misunderstanding what I'm trying to say. Often people will try and take every opportunity they can to have a sort of like, I call call them like gotcha moments. You know where people try to like prove you wrong or make you look like a hypocrite? I get a lot of that in my comments as well. People trying to like catch me out basically and call me a hypocrite. So yeah, that's fun because I feel like I try so hard to explain things clearly, but there's always going to be people out there that comment dumb stuff. It's not necessarily hate, but yeah, I'm trying to get better at ignoring it. The hardest part about being a YouTuber. Ooh, that's an interesting one. I feel like my answer also kind of answers this question. Do you ever feel like you have to be careful on everything that you post and have to justify everything that you do, mainly because you call out influencers, so any worries you may get called out for the slightest wrong move? This is such a good question. And the answer is yeah. Definitely. I guess something that I didn't expect when I started posting this kind of consumerism, criticism content is that people will jump on any opportunity to criticize you or call you out for being a hypocrite. And in some situations, you cannot win. When I made a video in my Lululemon jacket, I got a bunch of comments being like, oh my gosh, not you complaining about influencers spending money when you're wearing a $100 jacket. But then I guarantee if I wore a super cheap t-shirt in one of my videos that cost me like $3, I would get comments saying, oh my gosh, not you buying dirt cheap clothes from somewhere probably unethical. I had a comment once that basically said I was a hypocrite for talking about how overconsumption hurts the environment when I take a few long-haul flights every year to visit my partner in the US. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that being anti-overconsumption automatically revoked my right to board an airplane. I know planes suck for the environment, okay? I know that. I'm not stupid. But I have to go to the US to visit my boyfriend. So what are my other options? Walk there? Break up with my boyfriend? And it annoys me because I probably take a fraction of the flights that your typical businessman takes. All of these celebrities that go out and take flights on their private jets every other day. But because I talk about how overconsumption hurts the environment, people expect every choice I make to be 100% environmentally friendly. Or they call me a hypocrite. It is impossible to be 100% environmentally friendly. I know that, and I don't hold anyone else to that standard because we don't live in a very environmentally friendly world. But in my opinion, as long as you're trying to be environmentally friendly where you can, that is a lot more than some people are doing. Let me show you guys one of the wildest comments that I ever got, and it's also one of those comments that just made me realize there are always going to be people out there on YouTube who find ways to criticize me. I am never going to be able to stop that, so I'm not gonna let it stress me out. A little while ago, I mentioned in passing that I had to spend some money on renewing my US travel visa, again, in order to see my boyfriend. And somebody left me this comment. It says, actually, the last part about the visa really opened up my eyes. You critique overconsumption and consumerism and damage to our planet, which are anti-capitalist stances, and I was wondering how you can even get a visa to the US anymore. Then that unfortunately made me realize your commentary is very shallow and disconnected from reality, in the sense of having your rhetoric anchored in concrete political stances. That is disappointing. I wish you guys could have seen my face when I read this comment. I hit the what the hell? Because like, what? My commentary on overconsumption is shallow and disconnected from reality because I have to travel to the US to see my boyfriend? I feel like with commenters like this, they think they're being super big brain and progressive. But at the end of the day, you're just criticizing people who are trying to help and who are trying to do better and to raise awareness. Why not put this energy into criticizing people who are actually doing the damage? I think some people think that you're only allowed to be critical of things if you are the perfect person. Nobody is the perfect person. They don't exist. People create waste. People take flights, people participate in capitalism, because that's just how the world works. What matters is being aware of that and doing what you can to be better. So yeah, I get criticized for all sorts of things, and I probably always will. At the end of the day, I know that my content is my way of making a positive difference to things, or at least trying to make a positive difference. You don't have to like my content or agree with the things that I say, but if you're criticizing me for trying to make a positive change, instead of criticizing the people who are actually harming the environment, I just feel like that speaks volumes about your true priorities here. You don't actually care about the environment. different. You care about trying to feel morally superior in a YouTube comment section. Let's quickly talk about my videos themselves and how I make them. I film on a Sony ZV-1, which is connected to my PC. My microphone is an AT2020. I edit all of my videos on my computer using DaVinci Resolve. Any tips or advice for small YouTubers? Ooh, that's a tough one. Okay, tips to have fun making content. Post what makes you happy. Post about the things that you enjoy. Practice editing, practice filming. On the other hand, tips to actually grow on YouTube. Make good videos. And by that, I mean your camera needs to be good, your audio quality needs to be good, your editing needs to be pretty clean and eye-catching. You have to work on things like your retention rate, making sure people are staying to watch the video all the way through to the end. Have a consistent posting schedule. Post every day on YouTube Shorts or every other day. Try posting once a week if you're making long-form videos. Having fun on YouTube and growing on YouTube are two separate things. My advice would be learn to have fun making videos first. Practice making videos that have good visual and audio quality. Work on your editing. Watch some YouTube tutorials. I have been video editing since I was 14 years old. I am now 26. I have 12 years experience editing, so this isn't something I figured out how to do overnight. The reason my channel did so well so quickly is because I started off with all of these skills. So my advice to you guys just starting out is to practice now so you can be good later. Especially if you're young. Content quality wise, you are going up against people in their late 20s who have years of experience making videos and they have the fancy equipment and the fancy PC to edit on. People who have been making content as part of their career. I'm not saying that you need to have all of that to grow on YouTube, but it certainly helps. So if you're just starting out as a content creator, I would say that now is your time to practice making videos so that in the future, you can be at that level too. And when your videos are really good, that's when the growth will happen. And who knows, while you're practicing, you might start growing anyway as a result. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I feel like there's a bunch of stuff that I touched on briefly today that I could talk about for hours, honestly. Especially the going viral on TikTok stuff. I'll definitely be making a full video about that sometime soon because that was a whole thing. I am sorry if I didn't answer your question. Like I said, I got way more questions than I was expecting, which was a pleasant surprise, but it means I definitely missed a few of them. As I mentioned at the start of the video, all of the questions that were specifically asking things related to my thoughts on overconsumption, I will be answering those in a future video. Thank you so much for watching, thank you for all the questions, and I will see you next week for another Investigating Trends video.